The neighborhood was quiet, too quiet. Then the front door burst open. Karen stormed inside like she owned the place, her heels echoing on the tiles. "Excuse me, this driveway violates Community Code 14B. She barked, waving her clipboard. From the kitchen, a calm male voice replied, "You just broke into a police officer's house." Her words caught in her throat. I'm not trespassing, I'm inspecting." He stepped into the light, badge glinting on his chest. "Inspection requires permission. You just made a felony move, ma'am." Her face twisted in denial. "You wouldn't dare arrest me." He took a slow step forward. "Try me." The neighbors peeked from their porches. Phones up, cameras rolling. The moment the cuffs clicked, Karen screamed, "You'll regret this. I run this community." He leaned in close. "Not anymore." Fade to black. Text on screen. That's how it started. But what came next shook the entire HOA. The flashing red. And blue lights painted the cul-de-sac in chaos. Neighbors whispered behind hedges. Cameras flashed. Every phone was live. Karen struggled in the officer's grip, voice shaking between anger and panic. "You can't do this to me. I am the HOA president. I have rights." He didn't flinch. "Yeah, you had rights until you stepped over that line." She jerked her arms, trying to twist free. "You don't understand. I was protecting this community from people like you." He raised a brow. "People like me," a silence. The crowd went still. Her eyes darted. She realized what she'd said too late. The cop's voice dropped low. "You just said that on camera." Gasps rippled across the lawns. Karen's husband rushed out from across the street, still in his golf shirt, face pale. "Karen, what did you do this time?" "Robert, tell them I was just doing my job." Robert stammered, "Honey, maybe we should just cooperate this time." "This time," the cop repeated. "Sounds like a pattern." Karen spun toward him, trembling with fury. "You don't get it. He's lying. They're all lying. He's not even a real cop." The officer calmly reached into his pocket, flipped open his badge again. "Detective Marcus Hale, Internal Affairs, you picked the wrong house today." The murmurs grew louder. Someone whispered, "Wait, Internal Affairs." Karen froze, her lips parted, but no sound came. Hale's tone was cold now, professional, distant. "Step aside, everyone. This is an active scene." But she wouldn't stop. "You set me up. You planted this whole thing." He leaned closer. "Set you up. You walked into my living room uninvited. Because your trash bins violated HOA Policy 9A. He smiled faintly. "You broke into a cop's home over trash bins." The crowd laughed under their breath. Karen's face turned crimson, and then she spotted something through his open doorway, a photograph, her eyes locked on it. Her voice went cold. You're him." Hale paused. "Excuse me." She stepped closer despite the cuffs. "I've seen that photo before at the board meeting. They said you were gone, that you left after the case." The tension thickened. Even the air felt heavier. Hale's jaw tightened. "What case?" he asked quietly. She swallowed hard. "The one they covered up, the missing HOA funds, the one that..." "Enough," he snapped, but it was too late. Cameras were still rolling, neighbors whispering. Someone's live stream had already hit 1,000 viewers. Karen leaned forward, eyes wild. "You think you're here by accident, detective. You moved into our street. You think I didn't notice." Hale's voice was calm but dark. "I moved here to disappear, but people like you don't let the past rest, do they?" Her smile turned eerie, almost triumphant. "Oh, I remember now. You're not the hero they said you were." Hale froze just for a second. But the camera caught it, that flicker of truth. Karen laughed through her tears. "You see, you can arrest me, but you can't hide forever." Robert shouted. "Karen, stop talking." But she didn't. "Everyone, listen. He's hiding something. He's not." The siren cut her words. Backup arrived. Officers stepped out. One of them looked directly at Hale. "Sir, Captain says the report's been reopened." Karen's laughter echoed as they placed her in the car. "Reopened? How I told you. It's all coming back." The door slammed. Hale stood still on his porch, watching the taillights fade. For the first time, he looked worried, because what she said wasn't just a tantrum, it was the truth. Something had been buried years ago. And now it was resurfacing. The police cars were gone. The neighborhood had gone quiet again, but not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful. It was that heavy, suffocating silence that sits on your chest after something big happens. Detective Marcus Hale stood at his doorway, the coffee he'd dropped earlier still spilling down the porch step. His badge glinted faintly in the moonlight. The wind carried the faint murmur of neighbors whispering behind curtains. He could feel their eyes on him. He turned slowly, stepping back inside. The house felt colder now. He stared at the photo frame she'd pointed at the one on the mantel. It was old, faded. A younger Hale in uniform, standing with 3 other officers in front of a building marked Riverside HOA office. He hadn't looked at that photo in years. He whispered under his breath, how the hell did she know? Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. This is Hale. A deep voice on the other end. You shouldn't have moved there, Marcus. He froze. Who is this? The line crackled. Then the voice said quietly, she wasn't lying. The files you buried. They're coming out. The call ended. Hale lowered the phone slowly. He looked toward the window, where the police lights had faded into the distance. He muttered, damn it, not again. Suddenly, a knock at the door, 3 quick taps. He reached for his sidearm instinctively, moving to the door. When he opened it, a young woman stood there, nervous, pale, holding a brown envelope to her chest. Detective Hale. He narrowed his eyes. Who are you? She swallowed. I worked at Riverside HOA, a long time ago. I saw what they did. I saw how they blamed you. His expression darkened. This isn't a good time, but she didn't leave. They're cleaning house again, sir. Anyone who talks vanishes. She held out the envelope. Her hands were trembling. I found this before they wiped the archives. He took it cautiously, slid out the contents. Inside, photocopies of reports, old photos, internal memos, and one familiar signature, Karen's. His heartbeat kicked up. What is this? She was part of the cover-up, sir. Back then, she wasn't just an HOA president. She worked with the board. She handled property violations and fund transfers. Hale looked up, eyes burning. You're telling me she's tied to the missing funds case? She nodded. Worse, she's the reason you were suspended. The air went still. Hale took a deep breath, rubbing the back of his neck. He had spent 5 years trying to forget that chapter of his life, the corruption case that got buried. The one that turned him from a hero into a suspect. The one that forced him into silence. And now, the same woman who started it had just broken into his home. He looked at the girl. What's your name? Maya. She whispered. He motioned her inside. Lock the door. She stepped in, glancing nervously around the small, dimly lit room. Photos of commendations lined the wall medals. Certificates, reminders of a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. Why bring this to me now? Hale asked. Maya hesitated. Because she's not working alone. They're trying to move everything offshore, the HOA money, the shell companies. She panicked when she saw you moved here. Hale frowned. She thought I was onto her. Yes, but now that she's in custody, they'll come for the rest of it. She said something before they took her away about the ledger. Hale's face hardened. He whispered, so it's real. What is it? The ledger. He said slowly, is a digital trail. Every illegal transaction, every payoff, every property they seized under fake fines. I spent 2 years chasing it. It vanished, right before the investigation died. Maya nodded. They never deleted it, detective. They just moved it. He looked up sharply. Where? She swallowed. The HOA servers, under a project named Sunset Hills Maintenance. He stared at her for a long moment, piecing it together. Then he grabbed his jacket, badge, and gun. Where are we going? She asked. He said quietly, to get the proof back before someone else does. Just as he reached for the doorknob, the house phone rang again. He froze. Maya looked at him. Don't answer it. But he did, and this time, it wasn't a voice, just breathing, then a whisper, you're already too late. The line went dead. Maya's eyes widened. They know. Hale holstered his gun, face set like stone. Then we move now. He stepped out into the cold suburban night, headlights flashing as his unmarked cruiser started up. Inside the car, the envelope sat on the passenger seat, glowing faintly under the streetlights, the truth finally crawling back from the dark. But what neither of them knew was that Karen, sitting in the back of that police car downtown, wasn't done yet. She still had one phone call left, and she was going to use it. Karen froze in the doorway, her designer heels clicking against the polished floor as the officers turned their flashlights on her. The beam hit her face panic. Fake confidence crumbled in an instant. What are you doing in my house, Karen? Malik's voice was low but sharp, every word slicing through the silence. Karen stammered, clutching her purse. I was just checking on things. HOA business. We had reports. Malik interrupted, stepping closer. You mean the reports you made up to harass me? The officers exchanged glances. One leaned toward her. Ma'am, did the homeowner invite you inside? Karen hesitated. I'm the HOA president. I don't need an invitation. The officer straightened, his tone cold. That's not how the law works. Karen's jaw twitched. This man, he's not even supposed to be here. He's been violating what? Malik snapped, eyes locked on hers, painting my door, mowing my lawn, living quietly. The tension in the air was suffocating. The neighbors had started gathering again outside, phones up, whispering. One of them murmured, "Is that the cop from downtown, the detective?" Karen's face went pale. "Detective?" she repeated weakly. What is he talking about? Malik turned his badge toward her, slow, deliberate, like the moment before thunder hits. Detective Malik Patterson, City Police Department, and you, Karen Whitman, just broke into an officer's home without consent. Karen staggered back, disbelief flooding her face. No, this isn't. You can't, actually. One of the officers said, pulling out a pair of cuffs. We can. The click of the handcuffs echoed louder than her protests. She struggled, her voice cracking. You can't arrest me. I am the HOA. You can't. Malik stepped forward, his tone calm but cutting. You've been trespassing, harassing, filing false reports, and now breaking and entering. That's not community management, Karen. That's a crime. As the officers led her toward the door, flashing red and blue lights filled the hallway. Neighbors gasped. Some filmed, some clapped. Karen twisted her head, glaring through tears. This isn't over, Malik. You'll regret this. Malik stood firm, voice steady. No, Karen, you will, for every lie you told, for every threat you made. Justice just walked through your front door. Outside, the sirens faded as the car pulled away. Malik stood in the doorway of his home, breathing deeply, finally letting the weight of weeks fall off his shoulders. Then his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She's not the only one. He frowned, glancing back at the now empty street. Because in this neighborhood, one arrest was just the beginning. The flashing red and blue lights painted the entire street like a crime scene. Karen stood on the porch, shaking her head furiously, shouting at the officers. I'm the HOA president. He's the problem. Arrest him. Malik's calm voice cut through her chaos. Ma'am, you entered my house without permission. That's a felony, not a neighborhood complaint. The lead officer, a tall woman with sharp eyes, looked between them. Sir, can you verify ownership of this property? Malik unlocked his phone, tapped a few times, and handed it over. County records, title in my name. You can check the badge number under it too. Karen froze. Badge number, the officer scrolled and her eyes widened. Detective Malik Patterson, Internal Affairs. Karen's lips parted. What did you just say? Malik took a slow step forward, his gaze firm but quiet. I didn't move here to flash titles. I came here for peace. But you crossed the line. Her voice trembled. You can't just. I was only checking on a noise complaint. Malik tilted his head. A noise complaint inside my locked kitchen. Gasps rippled through the small crowd that had gathered across the street. Neighbors whispered, phones recording. The same people who once sided with her now stared at her like she was the criminal. The officer nodded grimly. Mrs. Whitman, step off the property. Karen's tone sharpened. This is ridiculous. I'm the one enforcing community safety. The officer sighed. Ma'am, you broke into a home. You're lucky he's not pressing for trespass and property damage. Malik's jaw tightened. Oh, I am pressing charges. The crowd murmured louder now. Someone whispered, she's finished. Karen's face twisted. You can't do this to me. Malik stepped closer, his voice cold but calm. No, Karen, you did this to yourself. The officer turned to her partner. Put her in the car. As the handcuffs clicked shut, Karen's screams echoed down the quiet street. You'll regret this, Patterson. I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. Malik didn't flinch. He simply turned toward his front door, broken glass crunching beneath his boots. Behind him, the lights flickered, the siren wailed, and for the first time in months, silence finally returned to his home. The morning sun spilled across the quiet neighborhood. Everything looked peaceful: trimmed lawns, painted mailboxes, the faint hum of sprinklers, but beneath that calm, war was brewing again. Karen might have been arrested, but she wasn't done. She had connections, old, powerful ones, inside the HOA board. Inside a glass conference room of the HOA headquarters, 5 people sat around a long mahogany table. The president's chair, still empty, was waiting. The vice president, a man with slick gray hair, leaned forward. So, she broke into a cop's house, on record. A woman across from him smirked. Karen doesn't break in. She enforces rules. That's what she said. She also said the same thing when she burned down that garden last year. Another muttered, then the door slammed open. Karen walked in, no cuffs, no shame, only fury wrapped in pearls and perfume. "I'm not here to explain," she said, tossing her sunglasses onto the table. "I'm here to take back what's mine." The vice president sighed. "Karen, you were arrested. You can't come back to the board like nothing happened." She leaned closer, eyes sharp as glass. "You think a little scandal scares me? Do you have any idea who I have on speed dial?" Silence. Then she smiled, slow and dangerous. "I made this community, and if one cop thinks he can humiliate me, I'll bury him in paperwork and ruin his name before the week is over." The woman beside her frowned. "Karen, Malik's a police officer. He's got legal immunity," Karen interrupted. "Then I'll hit him where it hurts his reputation." Cut to Malik's home. He stood outside his house, the one Karen once invaded, now calm again. Sunlight glinted off his police badge resting on the kitchen counter. He took a sip of coffee, watching neighborhood kids ride their bikes. For once, there was peace, but not for long. His phone buzzed a notification from the HOA portal. Violation notice #001. 5 unauthorized vehicle on driveway. He frowned. It was his police car. Seconds later, another ping. Violation #0016. Excessive noise after 9 p.m. He checked his clock. It was barely 10 a.m. He exhaled sharply. So it begins again. The next day, flyers appeared on neighborhood doors. A fake story. Local cop under investigation for abuse of power. Karen had started a whisper campaign, and the whispers were turning into noise. At the police station, Malik overheard 2 rookies murmuring, "Hey, isn't that the guy from the HOA scandal?" "Yeah, heard he pulled rank to get her arrested." "Man, that's messy." Malik stayed silent, jaw tight. He'd seen worse lies in his career, but this one hit home. That evening, he drove past Karen's house. She was on her porch, sipping wine, phone in hand. Their eyes met for a second. Her smirk returned. He rolled down his window. "You're not done yet, are you?" "Done." She laughed. "This is just the appeal." "Careful," he warned. "Next time, there won't be cameras to save you." She leaned forward, voice dripping with venom. "And next time, officer, there won't be witnesses to save you." A cold silence hung between them, 2 rivals locked in a battle of pride and power. Back home, Malik opened his laptop and began typing a formal report. Each word deliberate, calm, legal. He wasn't just defending himself, he was building a case. On the other side of town, Karen sat in a dimly lit living room surrounded by files, photos, and names. Her reflection in the wine glass glimmered like a threat. "This time," she whispered, "I'll destroy him from the inside out." The next morning, Malik received a letter from City Hall. The HOA had filed a petition requesting an internal review of his conduct. He looked up from the document, eyes cold, whispering to himself, "You wanted a war, Karen. You just got one." The screen fades out, thunder rumbles in the distance. Daylight turns heavy. The calm before the storm was over. Rain pattered softly against the window. Malik sat alone in his office, the city skyline glowing faintly through the mist. Stacks of files lay open on his desk: reports, complaint records, HOA bylaws, all marked with one name, Karen Whitmore. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes burning with fatigue. It had been 3 days since the petition. 3 days of whispers, stares, and veiled comments from colleagues. Karen's plan was working, the lies were spreading. A knock on the door. Detective Harris stepped in. "Boss, you got a minute?" Malik didn't look up. If it's about the HOA again, save it. Harris dropped a folder on the desk. Then you'll want to see this. Inside photographs. Karen at a private dinner with a councilman. Another shot her shaking hands with a local news anchor, and another her entering a law office late at night. Malik exhaled slowly. She's building allies. Harris nodded. She's filing a civil harassment suit. Claims you abused your badge. Says you used intimidation and unlawful force during her arrest. Malik leaned back, eyes cold. She's rewriting the story. Worse, Harris said, she's doing interviews tomorrow morning. Channel 8 Live. Malik's jaw tightened. She's not after justice. She's after headlines. Silence filled the room, then Malik smiled, faint but dangerous. Then maybe it's time she got her own story aired. The next morning, the HOA building buzzed with activity. Reporters, lights, microphones, the circus had arrived. Karen stepped out of her car like she was walking onto a red carpet. Floral dress, oversized sunglasses, confidence dripping from every step. A reporter called out, "MS Whitmore, do you regret confronting Officer Malik inside his home?" She paused, posing slightly. "I regret nothing," she said sweetly. "I was protecting community safety. Some people hide behind badges to mask corruption." Flashes exploded. Her smile widened. From across the street, Malik watched, unbothered. He stood beside his cruiser, a folder under his arm, calm as a storm about to break. Harris joined him. "You sure about this?" Malik nodded. "She wants attention. Let's give her the whole stage." Cut to the news conference. Karen stood behind a podium, microphones in her face. She spoke smoothly, every word rehearsed. "I was humiliated, manhandled, and treated like a criminal by an officer who should have known better." Gasps from the crowd. She continued, milking every second. "I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for every homeowner who's been bullied by the system." Suddenly a voice cut through the noise. "Then maybe you should tell them about the files, Karen." The crowd turned. Malik walked forward, steady, composed. Every camera swung toward him. Karen froze. You're not supposed to be here." He smiled faintly. "Public event. Remember?" Reporters swarmed. "Officer Malik, is it true you're under investigation?" He raised a hand calmly. "I won't comment on speculation, but I will address the facts." He opened the folder. Inside printed screenshots, time-stamped footage, HOA internal emails. 3 weeks before she entered my home, Karen falsified maintenance citations targeting specific homeowners. She doctored records, forged signatures, and when caught, she blamed staff. "I have statements, proof, and now a pending audit." Gasps again. Karen's smile collapsed. "That's not true," she shouted. Malik turned another page. "Also, here's a copy of her threatening text messages to a witness who recorded her breaking in." He read aloud, "If you release that footage, I'll make sure your property gets condemned." The crowd erupted. Flashes, voices, questions firing like bullets. Karen tried to speak, but Malik leaned forward, voice low, calm, deadly. "You thought you were playing chess, Karen, but you forgot one thing. I play by the law, and the law doesn't lose." Security moved in as reporters closed in on her. Her mask cracked. For the first time, she looked scared. That evening, Malik sat in his car under the orange glow of streetlights, radio murmuring faintly. Harris pulled up beside him. "She's trending. Half the town's turned on her. News channels want your side." Malik didn't answer right away. He looked toward the quiet houses, the same ones Karen once ruled like a queen. Now her kingdom was falling apart. "Let her talk." He finally said, "The truth doesn't need volume, just patience." Harris smirked. "You really set her up, huh?" Malik shook his head slowly. "No. She built the trap herself. I just held up the mirror." Later that night, Karen sat alone in her living room, TV flashing clips of her own downfall. Headlines: HOA president accused of fraud. Officer exposes local corruption. Wine glass trembling in her hand, she whispered to herself, "This isn't over. It can't be." She picked up her phone, dialing a number in the dark. A voice answered. "Yeah." Karen's voice was low, cold. "If the law won't stop him, we'll use something else." The line went silent for a second, then the voice replied, "Consider it done." The camera slowly pulled back her house in shadow. Thunder rolled again, and for the first time this wasn't about HOA anymore. It was about revenge. Rain kept drumming against the windshield as Malik's car rolled to a stop outside his house. The storm had followed him all the way home, restless, almost like the night itself was whispering a warning. He sat for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, eyes tracing the dim reflection of his own face. He wasn't tired, he was wired, too calm, too aware, the kind of calm that comes before something goes wrong. He stepped out, umbrella in hand, scanning the street out of habit. Every porch was dark. Every curtain drawn, except one. Across the street, a faint silhouette moved behind Karen's old office window. He frowned. The HOA building was supposed to be closed. He started walking toward it. Inside the office, a woman stood near the desk, flashlight in hand. She was tall, sharp features, dark coat eyes that didn't belong in this neighborhood. She turned as Malik entered. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice steady, hand near his badge. The woman smiled faintly. "You must be Officer Malik." "And you are?" She ignored the question, walking closer. "Quite a mess you've made with the HOA. Everyone's talking about it. You really humiliated her, didn't you?" Malik's expression didn't change. "If by her you mean Karen Whitmore, I didn't humiliate anyone. I told the truth." The woman nodded slowly. "Truth, funny word. She says you broke into her property, that you forced her hand." He sighed. "Let me guess you're her lawyer." "Not exactly." She smiled, stepping into the light. "Let's just say, I handle things off the record." Malik's tone hardened. "Then this conversation's over." He turned to leave and froze. Behind him, two men appeared in the doorway, unmarked jackets, gloves, no badges. Malik's hand dropped near his holster. "Big mistake," he said quietly. The woman smirked. "Oh, I don't think so." Before he could draw, one of the men lunged, but Malik moved faster. A sharp twist, a shove, the man crashed into a filing cabinet. The other swung. Malik ducked, countered, grabbed his wrist and slammed him against the wall. The woman stepped back, voice cold. "You just made this easier for me." She raised her phone. Click, a photo. Malik standing over two men, one groaning on the floor. Malik stared at her, realization dawning. "You're setting me up." "Exactly," she said calmly. "By tomorrow, that photo will be everywhere. Headline: Disgraced officer assaults HOA representatives." Malik stepped forward. "You're working for her." She tilted her head. "Working with her. There's a difference." He took another step closer, voice low, cutting through the silence. "You think I don't know how to fight a setup?" "Oh, I think you'll try," she said, slipping past him, "but this time, you won't see it coming." She walked out, heels echoing through the empty hall. Malik stood there for a long moment, breathing heavy, adrenaline coursing. He picked up the fallen flashlight and noticed something near the desk. A small USB drive. He turned it over in his hand. No label, no clue, but his gut told him this was left on purpose. Cut to Karen's house. Karen paced across her living room, still on the phone. "You got it?" she asked. The woman's voice came through the speaker. "He took the bait. We got the photo. It'll look like he attacked my men." Karen smiled, slow and satisfied. "Perfect. Let the world think he's out of control. Once they do, the department will have no choice but to suspend him." "And the drive?" the woman asked. Karen hesitated. "You left it there." "Exactly as you said." Karen exhaled, eyes gleaming. "Good. Once he plugs it in, he'll have no idea what he's just unleashed." Later that night, Malik sat at his desk, staring at the USB drive. His instincts screamed trap, but his curiosity, that part of him that needed the truth, wouldn't let go. He slid it into his laptop. The screen flickered. Files appeared in encrypted folders, video thumbnails, timestamps. One name stood out: Karen Whitmore Security. MP4. He opened it. Grainy footage filled the screen. Security camera feed from Karen's house. She was in her office shouting into the phone, "I don't care what it costs. Get him fired, get him framed, just make sure his career is over." Then a pause, a man's voice from behind the camera. "You sure about this? Planting false evidence is risky." Karen turned sharply. "He humiliated me. He made me a joke. He thinks being a cop makes him untouchable. Let's see how he feels when the world turns on him." Malik's eyes narrowed. The file kept playing, showing her handing over fake documents, laughing as she planned every step. He leaned back slowly. That USB wasn't just bait, it was the proof she didn't mean to leave behind. Or maybe someone inside her circle was turning against her. He picked up his phone. Harris, it's me. I've got something big. What is it? Video evidence, her entire setup. She's not working alone. Harris paused. You want me to bring backup? No, not yet. I want to see how far she'll go first. Malik. He cut him off. No, listen, I need her to think she's winning. Only then will she show her real hand. He ended the call and looked out the window. Rain still falling. Thunder rolling closer. And for the first time in days, Malik smiled. You wanted a war, Karen, he whispered. Now you've got one. Cut to Karen's car parked in a dark alley. The mysterious woman sat beside her. You sure he plugged it in? The woman asked. Karen smirked. Oh, I know he did. That man can't resist a clue. And when the data leaks, Karen looked out the window, eyes cold. It won't just ruin him, it'll destroy everything he ever built. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face. The villain was fully awake now. Morning broke heavy and gray. The kind of morning that smelled like betrayal before the first coffee was even poured. Malik woke to the vibration of his phone. Dozens of notifications, missed calls, messages, headlines. He reached for it, still half asleep, and froze. News alert. Officer Malik Patterson under investigation for assault and data tampering. His photo, the one the mysterious woman took, was splashed across every local outlet. And beneath it, the same word repeated over and over. Suspended. He sat up fast. What? The phone rang again. Captain Harris. Malik, where the hell are you? At home, sir. What's going on? You tell me. The department's been flooded with calls. They've got footage of you attacking HOA reps in their office. That footage is fake. I know that, Harris said, voice tight. But until we can prove it, Internal Affairs wants your badge and your weapon. Malik stood, pacing. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not. They're on their way to your house right now. Click. The call ended. He stood in silence, staring at the reflection of his badge on the table, the one symbol he had lived by, now being torn from him by lies. A car engine hummed outside, then the sound of doors slamming, heavy footsteps. He looked up just as the knock came. Officer Patterson, open up. This is Internal Affairs. Malik's jaw tightened. He opened the door. Two agents in plain suits stood there. One of them held a file. Officer Patterson, you've been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Hand over your firearm and badge. He handed them both, silently. The younger agent glanced around his home. Quite a place you've got. Shame if the department doesn't want you back. The older one shot him a look. Let's keep it professional. They left as quickly as they'd come. Malik stood there, the weight of silence pressing against his chest. He didn't even feel angry, just cold. The kind of cold that doesn't come from weather but from betrayal. He walked to his desk, stared at the USB again. The evidence was real, but someone had flipped it. Someone had made it look like he doctored the footage. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered. A slow, taunting voice. Hard day, officer. Who is this? Doesn't matter. What matters is. You should have stayed quiet. You were never supposed to open that drive. Malik gritted his teeth. You're one of Karen's people. The voice chuckled. Karen, no, she's just a pawn. You exposed her. Now the ones above her, the real HOA, are watching, and they don't like messy cops. What do you want? Want nothing. I just wanted you to know what happens when you dig too deep. Consider this your warning. Click. The line went dead. By evening, the story had exploded. Karen was on TV giving interviews, smiling faintly, playing the victim. I never wanted conflict, she said sweetly, but Officer Patterson, he became aggressive, unpredictable. I feared for my safety. The reporter nodded sympathetically. So you filed the report? Yes, and I trust the system will handle this fairly. She almost smirked at the last word. Malik watched it from his couch, fists clenched. He could practically hear her laughing through the screen. He slammed the remote down. I'm not letting you win. He opened his laptop, again pulling up the encrypted files from the drive. Buried deep inside one folder was a log of transactions, money transfers from shell companies to HOA accounts. Millions of dollars. He scrolled faster. Every document had the same digital signature, the same one attached to Karen's organization. But one file stopped him cold. HOA Master Ledger. Zip owner C. Wright. He whispered the name aloud. Charles Wright. The name rang a bell. The National HOA Federation chairman, Karen's boss. He opened the file. A video popped up dated 3 months earlier. Karen and Wright were sitting across a table, discussing how to contain troublesome homeowners. The phrase target removal echoed through the room like poison. Malik's heart pounded. This wasn't just local corruption. This was nationwide. He transferred the file to an external drive, locked it away, and grabbed his phone. Harris, I've got the proof. Real proof this time. Malik, you need to stop, Harris said, voice heavy. They're watching you. Then let them watch. You don't understand. Oh, I do. They framed me once. They'll try again. But this time I'm going public. Cut to Karen's mansion that night. She poured herself a drink, humming as thunder rolled outside. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You shouldn't have left the drive. He found it. Her smile faded. She called back instantly. Who is this? A deep voice answered. The man you thought you could use. The line went dead. Outside her window, a shadow moved past the rain. Streaked glass, she froze. Her house alarm beeped once, then went silent. Her eyes widened. No, not tonight. She reached for her phone, but before she could dial, a low voice came from the doorway. Funny how quiet you get when the tables turn. Karen spun around. Malik stood there, drenched from the rain, eyes cold, calm. You broke in? She hissed. No, he said quietly. I just came to return something. He tossed the USB drive onto the table. Karen stepped back, her voice shaking. You think this will save you. It already did. You just don't know it yet. Her lips trembled with rage. You'll regret this. He leaned in closer, his voice low. No, Karen, you will. He turned and walked out into the storm. Back in his car, Malik's phone vibrated. It was Harris again. Malik, the department knows. The files you sent, they're real. The FBI involved now. Malik stared at the windshield, rain racing down the glass like falling glass shards. Then it's over. He said softly. No. Harris replied. It's just starting. Malik looked up. In the distance, unmarked cars rolled into the neighborhood black SUV, headlights cutting through the night. Sirens flickered red against the rain. The reckoning had begun. The storm didn't stop that night. Rain came down in sheets, washing away everything that wasn't meant to last: lies, footprints, and reputations. By the time the FBI convoy reached the quiet suburban street, the thunder was louder than the whispers that had once ruled it. Karen's mansion glowed like a crime scene, red and blue lights flashing across marble columns. Inside, chaos. Agents moved through every room, gathering files, seizing laptops, ripping through layers of secrecy that had lived behind designer drapes and fake smiles. Karen stood in the middle of it all, drenched in defiance but stripped of control. Her white robe clung to her like defeat. Do you know who I am? She shouted, voice cracking. Agent Rivera, leading the operation, didn't even look up. Yeah, you're the reason we're here. Karen's lips trembled. You can't just barge into my home. Rivera turned, holding up a warrant. Correction, we can, and we just did. Behind her, another agent emerged from the study. Sir, we've got encrypted documents, transfer logs, and surveillance data. This goes deep. Karen's hand shot up. You have no right. Tell it to your lawyer. Rivera cut in, if you still have one. The flash of camera lights filled the air as media vans swarmed outside the gate. Every network, every reporter, they were all there. The same neighborhood that once whispered behind curtains now watched from open windows, faces pale with shock. Karen, the untouchable queen of the HOA, was finally being dethroned. A few blocks away, Malik sat quietly in his car, watching the scene unfold through the rain-smeared windshield. He didn't smile, he didn't gloat. He just breathed slowly, deeply for the first time in months. His phone buzzed. Harris, it's done. The captain said, they've got everything from her ledgers to the offshore transfers. You were right all along. Malik exhaled, his voice low. And my suspension, lifted, effective immediately. He nodded, eyes still fixed on the flashing lights. Then it's over. But Harris's tone darkened. Not yet. There's something you should know. Someone from inside the department was feeding her information. Malik's head turned slightly. Who? Not over the phone, Harris said. Meet me in an hour. Click. An hour later, they met in an empty parking garage downtown. The hum of fluorescent lights echoed through the cold air. Harris stepped out of his car holding a sealed envelope. She had help, Malik, from inside. Someone high up. Malik frowned. Whose name is in there? Harris handed it over silently. Malik opened the envelope. His blood ran cold. A familiar name. Lieutenant Scott Delancey. His own mentor. The man who'd vouched for him, guided him through the academy, stood beside him through every case. Scott, he whispered. Harris nodded grimly. He's been on their payroll for years. HOA used him to bury complaints, alter reports, even frame you. That's how Karen knew every move you made. Malik's hands clenched around the paper. He's still in the force. For now, Harris said. But internal affairs wants him quietly brought in. Malik stared at the city lights. Quietly's not my style anymore. Next morning, police headquarters, Malik walked through the main lobby, badge gleaming again on his chest. Officers turned to look, whispers rippling through the hall. He ignored them all and walked straight to Scott's office. The door was open. Scott was at his desk, sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. Morning, Malik, he said smoothly. I heard about the suspension. Glad it's over. Malik stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Yeah, over. Scott raised a brow. You don't sound relieved. Because I found out why it happened. Scott leaned back, smirking slightly. Oh, you sold me out, Malik said flatly. The smile vanished. That's a serious accusation. I've got proof. Scott's eyes flickered. You don't know what you're talking about. Malik dropped the envelope on his desk. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Scott opened it, saw the documents, and for a split second his mask slipped. Then he stood up, stepping closer, voice low. You think you're a hero, don't you? You think exposing her makes you clean. You have no idea what you're up against. Malik's jaw tightened. Then show me. Scott chuckled darkly. You ever wonder why Karen was so confident? Why she never flinched? Because she wasn't the top. She was the front. This goes way above her. People you can't touch. Malik didn't blink. I've heard that before, and it never stopped me. He turned and walked out, calm, controlled, unstoppable. That night, the headlines hit again. Karen Miller, charged with fraud, arson, extortion, and conspiracy. Lieutenant Scott Delancey, placed on administrative leave pending investigation. But the biggest story of all, Officer Malik Patterson's whistleblower report exposes nationwide HOA corruption network. His face was everywhere, not as the villain they'd painted him to be, but as the man who refused to bow. Hours later, he stood on his porch again, the same one Karen had once barged into uninvited. Only now the silence was peaceful, the sky was clearing, stars glimmered faintly through the mist. He sat down on the steps, looked out over his quiet yard, and finally allowed himself to breathe. His phone buzzed once more. A text, unknown number. You won this round, officer, but the game isn't over. He typed back, Malik, good. I'm just getting started. He locked the screen, leaned back, and whispered into the night, people like you built your world on fear. But now, fear works for me. The wind shifted, carrying away the last echoes of Karen's empire. And for the first time in a long time, justice didn't just sound like a word. It sounded like peace. The storm passed, but it didn't take everything with it. By morning, the city woke up to chaos wrapped in calm. Newspapers lined every doorstep with Malik's face across the front page, the officer who exposed the empire. Talk shows, news panels, podcasts, everyone had an opinion. Some called him a hero, others called him reckless, but for the first time in months, Malik didn't care what they called him because the truth finally had a name. At police headquarters, the atmosphere was tense. Desks buzzed with calls, officers whispered in corners, and the brass upstairs was holding emergency meetings behind closed doors. The kind of meetings where truths weren't discussed, they were managed. Captain Harris waited for Malik in the corridor. He looked tired, like the weight of what they'd done was finally sinking in. They're not happy, he said. Who? Malik asked. City Hall, the unions, the investors who backed Karen's developments. This wasn't just an HOA scam, it was a political machine. You blew up the wrong beehive. Malik crossed his arms, then let them sting. I'm done living quiet. Harris gave a bitter smile. Yeah, but quiet is how the system survives. He handed Malik a folder. The feds want you in D. See next week. They're expanding the probe, national scope. You'll be their point man. Malik stared at it. That fast? They move fast when the cameras are on. Malik nodded, and when the lights go off, Harris hesitated. That's when the knives come out. Later that day, Malik stood outside the precinct as reporters swarmed around him like bees to honey. Officer Patterson, is it true Karen Miller's case connects to the senator's fund? Do you regret leaking the documents? Are you safe? Have you received threats? He didn't answer a single one. He just walked straight through the noise, the flashes, the chaos, eyes forward, mind clear. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't the end. It was just Act 2. That night, Malik drove to the outskirts of town where the city lights faded and the silence grew heavy. He parked near the lake, the same one where it all began, and watched his reflection ripple in the water. He thought of Karen's last words before being taken away. You have no idea what door you just opened. And now, looking out at the still water, he knew she wasn't lying. Because since her arrest, 3 other HOA presidents across the state had vanished. 2 resigned suddenly. 1 died in a boating accident. All 3 were linked to the same shadow fund buried under a maze of shell companies. Karen was just the visible part of something much larger, something ancient, systemic, and deliberate. Meanwhile, in a glass tower across town, Senator Dalton stood by his office window, watching the news with clenched fists. The headlines kept repeating Malik's name, and that was bad for business. He turned to his aide. Get me Delancey. Sir, he's been suspended. I don't care. He still owes us. He walked to his desk and opened a drawer, revealing a flash drive labeled HOA Alpha. This doesn't go down with her, Dalton said coldly. Not after everything we built. Across town, Malik was at home reviewing the same documents the FBI seized, but something didn't add up. Hidden deep within Karen's emails, one name kept repeating: Project Eden. At first, he thought it was another HOA scheme. But the attachments told a darker story. Construction blueprints, demographic maps, and financial transfers labeled as community development. He traced one of the accounts. It led to a Washington, D.C. real estate fund, managed by a private committee under Senator Dalton's signature. His pulse quickened. He picked up the phone. Harris, it's not over. Karen was part of something federal, Project Eden. There was silence. Then Harris whispered, I know. Malik froze. What do you mean, you know? I was told to stand down. Harris said, orders from above. Whatever you found, bury it. They're calling it a matter of national security. Malik's grip tightened. National security or national corruption. Don't do this, Malik. Harris warned, you've done enough. You got her. Walk away. Malik hung up. He wasn't walking away. The next morning, he was on a plane to Washington. No badge, no backup. Just truth and the files that could burn down everything. He landed under gray skies, rented a car, and drove straight to the Federal Archives building. But before he could reach the doors, a black SUV pulled up. 2 men in suits stepped out. Officer Patterson. He nodded cautiously. Director Keller wants to speak with you now. They led him into the SUV, tinted windows, silent interior, no visible IDs. He didn't speak the whole ride. Neither did they. After 20 minutes, they pulled into an underground garage beneath a nondescript building. The elevator took them down, not up. Basement level 7. Restricted access. The doors opened to a dim, lit corridor lined with steel doors. Inside one of them, a woman waited, early 50s, sharp eyes, no badge visible. Officer Patterson, she said, voice calm but cold. You've been busy. Who are you? He asked. Someone who knows how dangerous the truth can be. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were classified seals, satellite images, and financial ledgers, all bearing the same stamp. Project Eden. Karen Miller wasn't your enemy, she said quietly. She was your messenger. Malik frowned. Messenger for what? For us, she said. For something we've been building for decades. You just set it back 10 years. He stared at her. So you're admitting this? Careful, she interrupted. You're in a room where truth has rules, and you just broke them. She stood up slowly. You want to be a hero, fine. But heroes don't survive the second act. Before Malik could respond, the lights flickered once, twice, then went dark. And in that second of silence, he realized something chilling. They hadn't brought him there to warn him. They brought him there to disappear him. The lights came back on, but Malik Patterson was gone. The steel chair he'd been sitting on was tipped over. The security feed from the hallway cut to static just minutes before. And in a building full of cameras, there wasn't a single trace of him leaving. It was as if the world simply erased him. 3 days later, headlines flooded every screen in America. Officer Patterson missing, FBI denies custody. Whistleblower vanishes amid Project Eden rumors. And on smaller networks, a darker headline began to appear: the man who knew too much. But to those who knew Malik, the community he protected, the people he saved, the ones who saw the truth in his eyes, it wasn't just another case file. It was a warning. Something had gone terribly wrong. At the same time, inside a penthouse high above the Capitol, Senator Dalton stared at the city skyline through the glass. Is it done? He asked. The man across from him, the same suited operative from the SUV, nodded once. Good, Dalton said. Then we move to phase 2. The project continues. He turned toward the television, where Karen's old mugshot flashed across a news special. The anchor was saying, authorities believe Karen Miller's previous organization may have been part of a federal redevelopment plan. Dalton smirked. Perfect. Let the ghosts take the blame. But ghosts have a way of coming back. Because that night, in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Virginia, a man with bruised ribs, torn cuffs, and tired eyes stared at himself in the mirror. It was Malik, barely alive, but not defeated. He'd escaped the underground facility during the blackout. He didn't know how far he ran or how long he crawled through that drainage tunnel. All he knew was he wasn't done yet. On the sink sat a small burner phone and a single flash drive one he'd hidden in his shoe before being taken. The drive contained copies of every Project Eden file he'd found. He uploaded them to a secure server, typing with shaking hands. And then, with one deep breath, he pressed send. 12 hours later, every major network went dark for 5 seconds. Then, a video began to play, grainy but real. Malik's voice came through calm, steady, unwavering. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone, but what I've seen can't stay buried. Project Eden isn't a dream, it's a blueprint, a plan to rebuild America, by erasing the people who built it, communities replaced, families displaced, all under the word progress. They'll call it fake. They'll discredit me, but the truth doesn't need permission, it just needs light. Don't let them turn the land of the free into the property of the powerful. Then the screen cut to the Project Eden logo and the faces of every politician, CEO, and law officer tied to it. The internet erupted. Protests broke out in 3 states within hours. Anonymous groups flooded the networks with documents, financial records, blueprints. It was chaos, but it was truth. And through it all, a single hashtag trended across the world. #Where is Malik back in Washington? Panic spread like wildfire. The director slammed her fist against the desk. You told me he was handled. The operative looked pale. He was. I don't know how. Find him, she hissed, before the world does. But it was already too late, because Malik was no longer hiding. He was moving. Weeks passed, and in a dusty community center in Baltimore, a small group gathered at night. People from every background, young, old, rich, poor. On the wall behind them, a projection glowed with a familiar face, Malik's. A woman stood at the front. It was the same waitress who once stood between Malik and the police, shielding him with her own body. Tears welled in her eyes as she spoke. He gave us truth. The least we can give him is a voice. They called it the Eden Initiative, but this time, it wasn't built to control people. It was built to unite them. Grassroots chapters formed across cities. Lawyers reopened buried cases. Whistleblowers came forward, emboldened by his courage. And one night, as the movement grew, a message appeared on a private encrypted channel. Keep going. I'm still here. M. Months later, a single camera caught a blurry figure in a foreign market, tall, quiet, wearing a worn leather jacket and a faint scar under his eye. He paused for a second, looking into the lens, then disappeared into the crowd. Analysts argued for weeks whether it was real, but for those who believed, it didn't matter, because legends don't need proof. They just need purpose. The screen fades to black. Then Malik's voice echoes one last time. They tried to bury me, but they forgot I'm the soil. And from the soil, truth always grows. End of story.